Now, everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission:
to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations,
to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. This is Douglas Viviani with the rather out-of-this-world David Cohen. David, is, if you heard our show last week, is orbiting the Earth, and he's we got a nice sci-fi feel here. There's some kind of an accent that occurred, and he's basically tuning in to us and visiting with us, communicating with us through the technology of the day. He's in the John Glenn capsule, the original capsule, orbiting the Earth through the power of radio. Dr. Richter is with us here as well. Dr. Richard Richter, the aficionado of Star Trek himself. Doctor, welcome.
Thank you very much, Douglas.
John Glenn, welcome out there.
Everything's okay from up here, Doug. Happy to be here again.
This summer, we've seen the release of the third Star Trek movie that involves the original series characters, which, of course, have been recast, right? I mean, this year is the 50th anniversary. Yeah, 50th anniversary of Star Trek, and the original series debut on television in 1966. Wow, did time fly, huh? Holy smokes. David, David, you remember it coming out in 66, 67 when you were like a little kid?
No, I'm not that old.
I do remember it being announced because my dad and I used to watch The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and they announced that The Man from U.N.C.L.'s time slot was going to move for this new show, Star Trek. I remember that distinctly. And I don't know. Yeah, sometimes you've just got these memories. It's weird. Anyway, there's the time now for Everything Old is New Again to take a look at the old series. They call it TOS, the original show, and the new incarnation, although we know it's only been 3 movies. I think that's enough to compare and contrast the two and see where we are at present in Star Trek, 50 years after the original creation. We're also going to take a sneak peek into the new series, Star Trek Discovery, set to air January 2017. And we're also going to take a look at Richard and I's visit. Richard and I, it's not really appropriate. Richard and I's visit to the New York City, yes, I know, New York City Mission Star Trek Convention, which was held in New York City a couple of weeks back. So,
by the way, guys, thanks for the invite to that. I only live right there.
How far are you from the Javits Center, by the way?
Ouch.
15-minute walk. Why?
Well, it would have been nice for you to come on down. You knew we were coming down. You could have come on board.
What do you mean I knew you were coming down? I had no idea.
Douglas, I remember David saying something about I'll never go to those Star Trek conventions with you guys.
I think I do remember that, too.
If you listen to episode 24 of Everything Old is New Again, Rich, you'll remember that you guys kind of won me over. I was into going through that experience with you guys after initially mocking it.
Well, let me say this much. I believe, and it's not been announced yet, but I believe they are going to have another one next year. When they do, the minute it's announced, I will invite you, and we will. Presuming you get down from the orbit of Earth right now, we'll see what happens.
David, I would like to see you commit to that right now on the air.
Well, don't buy a ticket for me, but pencil me in.
Now,
definitely pencil me in.
Did you see Star Trek Beyond, David, or no?
I did.
And what did you think of it as a movie, a standalone movie?
I liked it.
That's some review. That's a good review.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. I can talk more about it, but
sure, we got time.
I felt more than any movie prior to that I thought the characters were fleshed out a little bit more, and I thought that the actors were definitely more comfortable in their roles. You could tell they've been doing this now a few times. And I thought the storyline was interesting. So as a standalone movie, I thought it was, the best of the 3 so far.
Interesting. Dr. Richter, what's your perspective on that?
I'm going to say, as you know, Douglas, anything Star Trek I seem to be a fan of, including Nemesis, right, and motion picture. I enjoyed it. My family enjoyed it, but it was Fast and Furious in space. It still was not back to the Star Trek foundations.
Which we spoke about in our last episode, if you want to tune that in. If you've missed it, go to everythingoldisnewagain.biz and click on the podcast. It's everythingoldisnewagain.biz. I agree. I did like it. I will say that to begin with. I liked it a lot better than many of the others. So I would say it's top half of the 13 have been released. However, I'm still, as you could tell, searching for the return back to the original show and what this is all about. And that's what we're going to struggle with a little bit here. My real question, though, is, because it's going to continue, are you excited about the fourth movie, Doctor?
As you know, Douglas, I'm a fan of anything Star Trek related. So, yes, I'm very excited about it.
Now, what about, David, did you go with, I don't know, did you go with your wife? Did you go with your kids? Who'd you go with?
I went with my son.
And did Ben, enjoy it? I'm interested in the next generation.
Yeah, he definitely enjoyed it. He thought it was really good.
So you think would go again with you to see the fourth one, maybe?
Yeah, definitely.
See, so that's very. Now, what about your children?
All my kids saw it before I did. I mean, Lorraine, yes, they were excited to go see it. They were into it. I mean, it is the Fast and Furious generation.
Okay.
And they all.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Rich. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying they all gave it positive reviews, and Lorraine and I saw it, and we both enjoyed it very much, too.
I think that, I hear what you're saying, Doug, but with movies, I think it's different. I don't know if you can get into philosophy and then back to the old Star Trek TV show up on the big screen with people's expectations. But that's why I'm hopeful that the TV show does that instead of the movie franchise.
I agree. A TV show is more appropriate because in the movies you've got to have shoot 'em up, you've got to have some action, but you can temper that too with some lessons like they did in The Voyage Home. That's a classic that even Wrath of Khan had lots of messages in it, references to classic literature and so forth. So and some philosophical discussion. But I know where you're coming from. Let's hear Simon Pegg. He's proud of the movie and he should be.
It has its roots very much in the traditional Star Trek idea of exploration and philosophy. These films have to be kind of events, and they have to be quite explosive and big. So the trick was to marry that cinematic spectacle with the tenets of the original Star Trek thing. And hopefully nice character beats when the characters find themselves alone and stranded and scared, and the relationships grow. And
so I think, as represented by what he says, I think he gets it in terms of exactly what we're all saying. That, in the movie you've got to have some stuff going on, some action, whatever, but he does want you to have character studies. He does want you to have some philosophical discussion, although I don't know there was that much in this particular movie, but I think he tried. David, do you see where he's coming from? You like him as a writer, or where are we going with this?
I definitely like him as a writer. I mean, I like the relationship between his character and that alien woman.
Right.
I forget the name of the character, but I thought that kind of harkened back to the old Star Trek series myself.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, we've lost Chekhov as the actor, the unfortunate death of that gentleman, and I don't know what's going to happen other than I know that J.J. Abrams, who's really in charge of the franchise still, has said that he's not going to recast that character. So I'm going to bet. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that character was so well received. She might be the next one on the ship, or you may get Dr. Marcus be someone that's on the ship as the 7 characters. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
Everything old is new again here, discussing all things Star Trek. We're going to compare when we come back the characters, old and new, from the original show and the new reboot. On Everything Old is New Again. Come on back. If you're looking to communicate with us, it's Everything Old is New Again at AOL.com. Old New Again at AOL.com. Old New Again at AOL.com. Come on back.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Oh, on the the Starship Enterprise. There's someone who's in Satan's guise.
I am not afraid.
My focus, I'm sorry, Captain, just 2 seconds, is us. At that volcano, you didn't give a thought to us. What it would do to me if you died, Spock. I'm Lieutenant Nyota Okuda of the USS Enterprise.
Now, I am Douglas Viviani of Everything Old is New Again. I am here with David Cohen, out there and about in space somewhere. How you making out, David?
Making out well, Doug. Earth still looks great from up here, and just having a good time.
You're planning your pre-entry, your re-entry. You're doing your checklist there while you're talking to us.
Well, I'd like to rejoin you, but I don't want to blow anyone's mind. David Bowie reference, Starman?
Gotcha.
No? All
right, we'll pick that up in a few minutes when we talk about Star Trek with Dr. Richard Richter. We're focusing now on comparing the old versus the new. We heard the original Uhura singing. We heard the first interracial kiss, which was a big move in the 60s. Then we heard the new one with a relationship that didn't exist in the original show between Spock and Uhura, and of course we heard and saw her strength of character standing up to the most recent villain in Beyond. Dr. Richard Richter, which one do you prefer and why?
Well, although everyone loves Nichelle, of course, I'm a big fan of Zoe. I think she plays a much more powerful and significant role in the movies, and she pulls it off well.
David?
It's a toss-up for me.
Okay.
I like them both.
All right. I'm a little jaded. I like the new one a lot better, but I really did enjoy the original Uhura until they focused on this singing business so much. I thought she's much more than that. And listen, when you go to, and here's the personal comes in. I've seen her like 17 times at conventions. Loved her for about 14 of them. But after a while, I got a little tired of hearing, "Could you sing us a song?" And she would do that same malarkey every single convention. You'd hear her singing that song or this music, and she has a nice voice, but there is more to the character and more to her than that. So I don't know if it's the fans that are at fault or her or whatever, but I got a little tired of that, so it jades me to that character.
I agree. I love the way they expanded her role. I do.
Yeah,
she's much more than what they made her in the original.
But what about the
series.
relationship with Spock? Did you expect that? Does that upset you? What?
Well, no, it didn't upset me. Again, it's part of expanding her role and the new version of Spock being, embracing that emotional side of his.
And it kind of works. Hate to say it. I think it kind of works, especially even in the latest movie where they supposedly broke up. Yeah. There's some tension there, and you want to explore that with a character that supposedly has no emotions but is hiding the emotions, whatever. It's very interesting. What is interesting to me is that WTNW in Jasper, Tennessee broadcasts our show now every Saturday at 3 p.m. I'm excited to be on Music Radio 820. By the way, did you know that they have a show, John and Heidi, every morning? It's their own from 6 to 10. They've got Maddie in the midday from 10 to 2. And they've got the B-side with Joshua Wayne every afternoon from 2 to 6. And somewhere within that mix on the weekends, and I'm going to say it again, on Saturdays at 3 o'clock in Jasper, Tennessee, we have been picked up to be broadcast there. I think it's tremendous. We also reach out to Chattanooga, Tennessee in that general area as well. And I don't know. I love the idea that we're in that area of the country. Thank you for joining the club.
Yeah, definitely. Really excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's tremendous. There's also, I'm just going to throw this out at you. I may want to do this next year. There's something called the Go Fest, the Between the Bridges wakeboard competition in Chattanooga every year. And maybe when we do a victory lap, we can go see what the heck that is all about. I think this is interesting. Just going to throw that out there. All right. Anyway, thank you for joining the internet. I should say not the internet. What would I say? The affiliate network of WTNW. Everything Old is New Again. A great partnership. Talking about partnerships, we have Chekhov here that now we're talking about and trying to think about the old character versus new. Let's listen to a little piece of that.
I know this saying. It was invented in Russia. Excuse me, sir. Can you direct me to the naval base in Alameda, where they keep the nuclear vessels?
Ensign authorization code 95 Richter 2.
Authorization not recognized.
How long does the planet have?
Minutes, sir. Minutes. I can do that. I can do that.
And I talk about partnerships. I mean, Chekhov partnered with the Enterprise is sort of. I know what you're saying, because how do you have the Enterprise without Chekhov? I don't know. And the new character, I mean, look at those quotes. It's in 3 movies, and that was really very memorable. No, David, do you remember seeing the Chekhov for the? I mean, didn't he stand out to you as one of the standout characters of the first movie?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
what a tragedy.
A tragedy, and he brought so much to the role. We have talked about Chekhov, though, so let's move on a little bit in the issues of time. We've got Sulu, and there's some changes in that character as well.
Don't call me Tiny.
Mr. Spock has orders to kill you, Captain. You will succeed. You will also appear to have killed him. Regrettable, but it will leave me in command.
Shoes up. All right. Now we've given him something else to shoot at.
Aye, sir.
You have 2 minutes to confirm your compliance. Refusal to do so will result in your obliteration.
If you test me, you will fail.
How about that? So I just showed you a little bit about the early Sulu, and then we got into the mirror universe with Sulu, who has aspirations to be a captain. Then we have got the Sulu in Star Trek VI when he is a captain, and now we've got Sulu as taking place on the ship as captain temporarily in Into Darkness. So lots of different roles for this gentleman. Richard, what do you think? Which one do you prefer? Let's be clear about it.
Douglas, Sulu is probably, outside of the 3 big, right? He's my favorite support character in Star Trek. And I have to say that George Takei and John Chose, it's a toss-up for me. I love them both. I could definitely choose favorites on all the others. Those 2 are even for me.
Interesting. I might agree with you on that. David, what do you think?
Clearly, for me, the new Sulu. I didn't consider George Takei much of an actor, to be honest with you. And I think this actor is just head and shoulders above him. And I love the fact that they gave him a same-sex partner. That was just so cool.
Now, that's a very controversial aspect of the show or of the movie, and even Takei himself says that was a mistake only because that he believes that the character should remain the same. But it is a parallel universe. Things do change. I don't know where I stand on that. It's nice to see that there's the diversity. I have no problem with that whatsoever. The issue comes in, should that character have had that, or should there have been a new character? That's real nerdy kind of discussion that maybe it's for another time, but I get what you're saying there. I think the actor himself and the character that's being portrayed is tremendous. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. Let's try Scotty real quick.
I can't give you warp 9 much longer, Mr. Spock. These engines are beginning to show signs of stress.
Level, please.
Transporter room.
Thank you. Up your shaft. Here's to you, lads. What was it they said that started the fight?
They called the Enterprise a garbage scow.
Have any idea how ridiculous it is to hide a starship on the bottom of the ocean? We've been doing here since last night.
Scotty, it's Kirk.
Oh, well now. If isn't Captain James Tiberius Perfect here?
Cheer that, I called him Perfect here.
There you go. So, Scotty always has that bit of fun to him, and, he's a character that we're going to have to revisit in the 3rd part of our show here. Initially, Dr. Richter, where do you feel on which is the best?
I'm more of a Simon Pegg fan, although, James Doohan managed to make the comedy.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything old is new again, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
My name is McCoy. I'm a doctor.
What am I, a doctor or a moon shuttle conductor?
I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
I'm a doctor, not an escalator.
I'm a doctor, not a coal miner.
You keep saying that. Are you a doctor, aren't you?
I don't.
Oh, what happened to these clips? They're ending too quick. This is Douglas Viviani back on Everything Old is New Again. What's happening there? Anyway, that was Dr. McCoy.
What was the coal miner reference?
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
That's the one within the cloud city. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to continue our discussion here of the original Star Trek versus the new Star Trek, the characters and what they're doing. So far, I think what we've got is a consensus kind of that the new Uhura is a big hit. I think the new Sulu is winning the awards here. Chekhov, we want to come back, even though he's passed away. We do want that character back. And finally, Scotty. David, where were you on Scotty, the new versus the old?
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I think that the big three plus Simon Pegg remind me so much of the original actors who played those roles that it's really a gray area now, where I don't see much of a difference. So this Scotty is definitely more playful, I think, and Simon Pegg, I mean. As a kid, he was Scotty, man. I mean, the original Scotty. And, he was the brains behind the whole ship, so just to write him off like that is tough for me to do, personally. So I think it's a toss-up on that one.
It really is hard. It's really I would never thought it would be, because we've been with these characters for, let's call it 47 years before, 42 years before these new ones came around. And the new ones only been around for 3 episodes, really, but they're really been cast. I mean, it's been cast terrific. Yeah. So it's hard to say, although I think now, to me, I get to the area where we talk about Dr. McCoy, Spock, and Kirk, and we'll do McCoy right now. I think it's easier to select one or the other. Let's just see if I'm right.
He's dead, Jim. He's dead, Captain. The man is dead. He's dead. He's dead. She's dead, Jim. That man's dead back there. She's dead. He's dead. Is this a dead man, Doctor? Very dead, Mr. Spock.
McCoy. Leonard McCoy. 20 year bastard. Damn it, man, I'm a doctor, not a physicist. Are you out of your Vulcan mind? What I've left is my bones. Green-blooded hobgoblin.
All right, so you've got Dr. McCoy there, DeForest Kelley, Carl Urban, David Cohen. Where do you stand on these?
To me, it's the best reference I can give you here is the way Walter Matthau and Jack Klugman each portrayed Oscar Madison. I think they were, equally good, but very different from each other, and it would be hard for me to choose. So I'm going to say right now, across the board for the big three, that it's a toss-up. I like both equally well.
Okay. Dr. Richter.
Well, DeForest Kelley for me, Douglas, and I have to make a comment on that whole left me only my bones segment. That is not where Dr. McCoy got the name Bones. It originated from sawbones, the 19th century term. Back in the Civil War, they would saw off a lot of limbs and amputations.
But that's a great call, a great reference, but it is a parallel universe. Things could have changed. That's what they're going to defend themselves on. I'm with DeForest Kelley, although I love Carl Urban. I think I need to see more, and I'm giving myself away here, but I need to see more of the new, the top three, and them develop their chemistry, although they've tried it. It's only been 3 movies. I think you can't beat the chemistry of Nimoy, Shatner, and DeForest Kelley. I just don't think you could beat it right now. Although, boy, the acting is
I agree
tremendous.
With that.
But I love Carl Urban. Don't get me wrong. I think that's the hardest role, the easiest role that could be lampooned, if you will.
Yes.
Could have been ruined if you did it the wrong way. And he said the same line so nice. Well, I think.
Yeah, he pulls it off. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's hard to pull off.
Yeah.
What you're saying, Rich, because it's like you're saying, Doug. I mean, it's a very fine line between parodying the original character and sort of making it your own. And I think he does it really well. But what you're saying about the chemistry of the three, that's a different question. And I think you're right, Doug, that they definitely don't have that now, these 3 characters, the way that the original TV show did.
Right, and you can't blame them. It's like when we tried to do Abbott Costello and do the mustard routine. I mean, we did it 1 time. They did it 1,000 times, yes, we were just as good as Abbott Costello, but we weren't better, Let's take, not yet anyway. Yeah. Let's take a look at Spock.
1 parsec, sir. Close enough to smell them.
That is illogical, Ensign. Odors cannot travel through the vacuum of space.
What are the chances of the captain and the others being alive.
Lieutenant, we are not engaged in gambling. We are proceeding in the only logical way to return to the place they were last seen and factually ascertain whether or not they still live.
I intend to assist in the effort to reestablish communication with Starfleet. However, if crew morale is better served by my roaming the halls weeping, I will gladly defer to your medical expertise.
Green-blooded hobgoblin. Live long and prosper.
Spock, in this case, do yourself a favor. Put aside logic. Do what feels right.
There's our friend Leonard Nimoy. I'm going to just throw it to you. We've kind of answered this, but David, I mean, where are you on this Spock character?
With Spock?
Yeah.
It's really hard to take over the role of Spock because Leonard Nimoy owned that role. I mean, he was Spock. There was really no difference as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
But I have to say that, and of course the actor's name is completely escaping me, even though he's one of my favorite actors now.
Zachary Quinto.
Zach Quinto, who just did Glass Menagerie on Broadway about a year ago and was unbelievable in it. But, if anybody can pull it off, that guy can. And I'd have to say, I have to give it to Leonard Nimoy just because it was Leonard Nimoy that created the role. That's my guess.
Dr. Richter?
Yeah, I agree. This is kind of like the DeForest Kelly, Carl Urban question. I mean, I like them both, but I like DeForest Kelly. Same thing. Leonard Nimoy, you took the words right out of my mouth, David. He is Spock. So I have to give him the edge.
I agree with you. I just want to say one thing just for all of us to understand. Leonard Nimoy took Zachary Quinto under his arm, so to speak, figuratively speaking, and taught him everything he knew about playing this character. And whether Zachary Quinto learned it or not, I think he did. I think he's a very good actor. But I'm just going to say, throw it out there, it was taught to him. Nimoy passed the torch to him on and off screen. So there's no animosity there whatsoever. But I got to go with the original. He was an iconic symbol for 20, 30 years. Think about what he was in the 60s. And this new character is not that right now. It's just a different world. Let's take a look at Kirk.
The enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. But I must point out that the possibility for knowledge is equally great. Risk.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Well, Discovery is intrinsic as a concept to the philosophy of Star Trek, and it felt like it was a beautiful way to acknowledge that spirit on where we're going as a species and a planet, and has given so much hope for a better world. And we need curiosity, and we need exploration, and we need to find better versions of ourselves.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. This is Douglas Viviani with the ever-present David Cohen. David has arrived back from orbiting the Earth in the John Glenn capsule. We're going to have to... There might be a lawsuit there, that museum that has the capsule that you press the button and all of a sudden it shot you out into space. It shouldn't happen. Should it? David?
No, it shouldn't, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm not sure if I'd be suing them, but they might be suing me for all I know.
All ends well that ends well. I guess they may charge you for that as a ride. I mean, you took the ultimate ride.
It was only $5, right? You can't be $5 for a space ride.
The reluctant astronaut himself. And we've got, of course, the aficionado of Star Trek, young Dr. Richard Richter here. That was Brian Fuller talking about Discovery and the new show. And so we're hoping, we've had this discussion, but we're just hoping against hope, so to speak, that he's a fan, that he will explore episodes that explore the best of, and exploit, I should say, the best of Star Trek, the original show. Dr. Richter, yes or no?
That was my feeling, Douglas. I mean, he's definitely a fan. He wants to make something original, but still in the tradition of the old Star Trek.
Right. I'm just balking against the company line that every actor is saying, and we've talked about this, about the hope and the future is hopeful and we're all working together. That is true. That's the basis. That's the foundation. That's the nail. That's not the whole story. I don't want to see stories about that. I want to see stories going beyond that. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. We're going to take a look at just a little bit, just to finish this discussion off of old versus new Star Trek, Zachary Quinto and his point of view on the whole Star Trek phenomenon.
Really cultivate an appreciation for it and understand the intellectual underpinnings of what the stories were actually about. But underneath them, I think, were some themes and ideas that are really relevant and resonant to society and reflective of what the cultural movements were
of the time, he says there. And so I do agree with that, and I think he's getting it. I think Simon Pegg gets it. So that's the movie franchise, which they have some restraints on time, but I think they get it, and I think maybe the next movie might go there. What do you think, David?
No, I agree with you. I'd like to see it go there, certainly.
You think it will?
I think it will. I do.
Right. Doctor?
I mean, that seems to be the projection.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think there's definitely the time is ripe. I think people want more than Fast and Furious right now.
Let's put it this way: when's the last time you saw a Star Trek movie where the Enterprise was orbiting a planet, a foreign planet? I mean, have we seen it? That's what you see in the original show 90% of the time.
All we've seen is the Enterprise blow up movie after movie.
Right. That's
exactly.
Orbit in Earth, get away from the ship, and let's dive into this. I mean, we've talked about it, but let's dive into this. Other than that, we, Dr. Richter and I, have a history of going to conventions. We were at the original convention in 1973. I don't think it was the original. I think it was like the second one. But we were there in 73 in the Penta. I remember it distinctly, sitting in this room. We'll go to that another time. And then just 2-3 weeks ago, we were at the Mission New York convention, brand new company running Star Trek conventions. It was in the Javits Center in New York, and we had some fun. We had a good time. I was not expecting it to be any good. It turned out to be something that we went one day. I kind of wish we went for 3 days. What do you think?
Yeah, we went into it with very low expectations, and we were pleased. It exceeded our expectations.
Yeah, why were your expectations so low?
We're used to the creation venue, and we were thinking more like a Comic-Con mayhem.
Yeah, because the people that run the New York Comic-Con, and it gets a great response. Tons of people go, but it's not a homey atmosphere. This one, they had a host. He was funny. They did some nice talks in between the panels of the guests. They had great guests there. They had the whole crew except for Captain Picard of the Star Trek Enterprise Next Generation. And during their panel, when we were there, we had an event that occurred that I think you're going to remember, Dr. Richter. We'll play it for you. It's probably hard to hear, but what happens is someone asks a question, or is supposed to ask a question of the panel, and says, I don't have a question, and if you listen, he presents a proposal for marriage to somebody that he's with at the convention. So try to listen with an ear towards that and see what happens.
I'm a huge fan, but I only have one question. Sabrina, Javat So-So.
See, now, I don't know if you got it. It was so hard. We were taping it there. It's just so hard to hear that. But to summarize, Richard, what did you just...
Jabat So-So, he was asking her to marry him. You know what?
What is Jabat So-So? Is that Klingon?
I guess that's, Klingon for will you marry me? He should have, there should have been violence, I guess, involved in the Klingon tradition. Then he wouldn't have gotten turned down.
Because you heard people go, oh, they're all excited. And then what happened?
And then, how embarrassing.
The whole cast went over to where they were standing, and you saw them, because we were facing the cast is facing us. We couldn't see the people, and they were horrified. LaForge, what's his name? LeVar Burton. His eyes were wide as can be. He looked like Ralph Cramden. He had his mouth open agape. All of them were like, "Oh my goodness!" Because the girl said no.
Did she say no in Klingon?
I think he chopped,
knocked him on his butt.
And no in Klingon would have been taking the batleth out and chopping his head off. So I don't think that was it. But I mean, it was. And then she goes, next question. And then the next thing she said, Marina Sirtis says, is who's the counselor, says, it always works in the movies. And
anything can happen live. Also, she was saying.
That's right. How horrifying! What did you think of that?
God.
anything can happen at these conventions.
Horrifying. Then we had a little interpretation or a little investigation into the mind of Nicholas Meyer, who is on the writing staff of the new show. So let's take a little peek as to what he says about what your expectations should be of the new show.
You have the right not to watch. You have the right to turn it off. But it is a sort of symbiotic relationship. If you go with open minds and open hearts, you may be rewarded. Whereas if you go with, a set of impossible to realize expectations which even you cannot specifically define, then we're bound to fail. And so I'm saying, get loose.
David, could you make that out? What do you think of that statement?
This guy should not be marketing the show. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. He's basically saying that my interpretation is that you're going to hate this, so try not to.
Interesting, Doctor.
Wow, I think he was basing it off of the fact that Enterprise failed because it didn't pick up steam until the latter seasons. Nemesis also really temporarily, shut down the franchise. And if you're a fan and you just go in with realistic expectations, you can support, the ongoing Star Trek phenomena. And I think that's what he's alluding to.
I also think that, the expectations are through the roof, and it's got to be the greatest thing in the world. And what he's saying is, really, what is that? Do you even know what you want from the show? We do. We're talking about this, but maybe the standard, casual fan is just, kind of saying it's got to be great. Well, what does that mean? It has to be great, and I bet you being great is different for different people and different episodes you might like. As a little inside, my word is I hear that the second character is a character called Number One. My guess is that Number One character is the character from the original Cage, who's the female Number One, and before she was on Captain Pike's ship, she's going to be on this ship, and this show is going to be shown from her point of view, not the captain's point of view. See if I'm right or not. And everything old is new again. Come on back. We'll talk more things Star Trek when it gets on the air. Have some fun. It does keep you forever young, doesn't it? Thanks, Dr. Richter. It's great to see you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Douglas. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Rich.
Come on back. Everything old is new again next week. Have some more fun. America's Entertainment Pop.